Hey everybody! Welcome to another episode of Talking Shop. I'm the host and creator of this, Anthony Crawford. And before I even start this, real quick, let's give a hand for the great Jim Norris and Mutiny Info Cafe for letting us do this here. For those who've never been here, man, it's the coolest spot in Denver, on one of the coolest blocks in Denver. Mutiny Information Cafe here on the corner of Broadway and Ellsworth here in the beautiful city of Denver, Colorado. Once again, my name is Anthony Crawford. This is Talking Shop. And I'm not gonna lie to you, this is the most selfish thing I have ever created in my life. I can't believe people still are into this. Basically, I find the best people I can find in the world of comedy, and I pretty much have them come here and tell you how to do things, how to get to where they're going. At any point, anytime anybody has a question, there's a mic over there, hop on, ask a question. Don't even wait for us to stop in the middle of a sentence. Go ahead and ask a question, because all of this is for you. I just want everybody to get as much knowledge as they can for free. I don't even care about making money off this yet. But yeah, not even gonna lie, I created this for the sole purpose of one day picking the brain of Chris Rock and Dave Chappelle. Until I get there, I find the best people I can find, and by no means is today an exception of that rule. But before I introduce my main man to the right of me, I got a little bit of advice I'll throw out there. Take it if you want, leave it if you don't. It's a two-parter today. First and foremost, comedians, stand-up or improvisers, however you're into comedy. First and foremost, please don't forget why you're doing this. All right, I see a lot of comics out there, and their whole purpose is just to get famous and all of that. That is a terrible way of looking at comedy, all right? Especially if you're trying to do it professionally, because you got to think about it like this. In Denver alone, just stand-up comedy, there's over 300 comics. All right, that's just in Denver. How many improvisers are there? Oh, fuck. That many. There's that many, all right? And that's just in Denver. We're a middle market. All right, think about how many there are in Chicago, New York, LA. There are a bunch of us out there. Your whole point is just to get famous. You were thinking the wrong way. You might as well try to get famous in basketball. You know, it's pretty much the same deal. You got the same amount of odds. You got to remember why you're into this. All right, I ain't gonna lie. I have 3 reasons why I'm into it. First and foremost, I enjoy making people's day better. Alright, every time I get on stage, my whole sole purpose is to get people to forget about all the negative things that happened to them that day. Alright, I want to brighten their day. That's my job. My job is to make them laugh, make them happy. Alright, second thing is, honestly, I want to make myself feel better. You know, and I never understand why comedians go on stage with all that bad baggage of the day on them. You know, why would anybody have a good time if you're in a bad mood? You know, you got to remember like why we're there. And the third thing is, man, comedy makes me feel like I'm not alone. Because if you've seen me do stand-up, I come up with the stupidest thoughts I've had. And I can't believe people laugh at it. It makes me feel like I'm not alone. You know, it makes me feel happy that other people found this stupid thought funny. And it makes my day. And I'm making their day. And that's the main reason why I'm into this. And I can't believe I get paid for it. I'm so happy I get paid for it now. But that's the main reason why I'm in it. And don't forget why you're doing comedy, because all that's going to do is make you a bitter, frustrated comic. And we all know several of them. Alright, don't become those guys. Alright, please don't. And the second thing I want to bring up is, man, when I've said this on several other episodes of Talking Shop, and I gotta say it again because I keep seeing it. Like I said earlier, there are several of us. There are a bunch of us. Please be careful on the topics that you're doing on stage. All right, please be careful. You're not the only one that came up with that Trump joke. All right, think about all the writers for The Daily Show. Think about all the writers for Fallon and Kimmel. And be careful of topics that everyone are talking about. That's one of the main reasons why I watch so much stand-up. I want to see what everybody's talking about just so I don't. I want to be as unique as possible. Unless you have a brand new way of going at it. If you have a brand new way that no one's ever heard of, no one's thought of, by all means, go for it. That's you, man. Go for it. But be careful, man. Be careful. Because there are so many comics out there. And those topics that everybody are talking about, man, how many Cosby jokes did you hear? You know what I mean? Like, how many Bill Cosby jokes can you do? How many Jared from Subway jokes can there be? You know, there's so many. There's so Monica Lewinsky. I remember when that was in the news, and everybody was doing it at open mics. Yes, stain on the dress. Ooh, come up with something new, man. You know, you got to be careful with these topics that you know everyone is talking about. Try your best to come up with things, especially that are relevant to you, because if they're funny to you, you're going to put them out as though they're funny. You know, if it's mundane to you, it's probably how you're going to tell it. You know what I mean? So keep that in mind. If you don't care, whatever. You know, but just a couple jewels of information I want to throw out there. Now, without further ado, let me introduce my main man to my right. I'm trying to bridge the gap, ladies and gentlemen. Trying to bridge that gap. For some reason, stand-up comics and improvisers, for some reason, look weird at each other. And I don't understand why, because I think we can benefit a lot from each other. And right now I'm trying to bridge that gap. I got an amazing improviser next to me, owner of the Grafenberg Theater, Grafenberg Productions. I've had the pleasure of working with him several times. Writer's Block, amazing show. Y'all should check that out. Without further ado, Justin Franzen, everybody. Give it up for him. Justin Franzen. Thanks so much for doing this, man.
No problem, man.
Appreciate it.
So it's my first weird. I'm nervous enough on podcasts, so being like here in mutiny, it's a little awkward.
Well, it's cool. You're an improviser. You're used to it.
Yeah. I'm kind of weird.
Now, let's go ahead and kick this off, man. How'd you get started with improv? How'd you get into this?
So it's kind of a back-asswards way of like I was doing speech and debate in high school. And my dad threw a newspaper down on my bed, and there was a comedy troupe down south, and they were having auditions, and I asked my dad if I could audition, and he said yeah, and I went and auditioned for this little short form group, and it was in the back of Fiore Sports Bar and Grill doing comedy jocks, and I was 15. I remember like the story is like the true time is I guess second grade. I dressed up as a stand-up comedian for like what do you want to be when you grow up. Yeah. So it was kind of foretold, if you will. But yeah, that's when like I got my first improv bug, and my dad introduced me to like Second City. Nice. Whereas like I knew about SNL and all that stuff, but then it was like where do those people come from? Yeah. So once it was like down that rabbit hole, I almost didn't give a shit about school. I did, because I got to do speech and debate, and that was all performance stuff. Right. But I was still doing improv, and then after school, instead of college, I did that for like 3 weeks. And then I just shipped off to Chicago, and just went out there to where I was reading about all the people, and just started doing it. So I got it super early. Nice. And you ended up going to Chicago and doing it? Yeah, I moved out there, 19? Nice. 19. Came back for a brief spell, and then was back out at 21. Huh. Yeah. And how long ago was that? How long you been doing this? This is 20 years. Oh wow, you're right there with me. I'm 20 years in stand up. It's one of those roads. You know, started at 15 in the back of this little sports bar, And it was like, you know, just like bittered stand-up, there's plenty of bittered improvisers, and he was very much one of them. You know, and yeah, it was just kind of started taking classes and stuff, and was like, I don't want to go to school.
Right.
You know, as I got the bug way too early.
I get that. And and it's funny, I thought the same thing. When I started stand-up, I actually started with improv too. First 5 years I did stand-up, I did improv at North Carolina A&T State University, acting pride. I didn't graduate, I dropped out. But yeah, the comedy bug got me, and I was like, man, I already had a pretty good job, and I already know what I want to do. I just kind of dropped out of college. Bad mistake. But yeah, so here's what I've always wanted to know. Like, one of the main reasons why I started this podcast is because I don't think you should have to pay for stand-up comedy classes. I think that should be more OJT, on the job training.
Right.
However, with improv, you kind of have to get classes, right?
Yeah.
Like you gotta. Oh, why is that? Why?
Well, I think so. Like stand-ups, I mean, obviously the different beasts, but it's about like getting your voice and getting your reps, and you know. Now, granted, there are classes like our improv classes are completely applicable, if you will. You know, it's like, but we need like with improv, you need to understand like scene mechanics, character building. It's the writer, the director, the everything in the blink of an eye,
right.
And you have to have that refined enough to know how to make hopefully the right choice in that frame of time. And you know, there's a lot of trial and error in the process. So it's about, you know, open mics. I think you can never, like, we've talked about it a bunch because we've got a sketch program now too, and it all applies because it's all comedy theory. You know, you learn the concepts of absurd straight or absurd, or like alternate reality, and like how to world build and so forth. Which still translates, you know, it's just like any literary trope you would, you know, it's just like, it's literally just wired comedy classes.
Right.
But, you know, the other part is like half the classes are teaching people to be comfortable enough with their own choices in a weird way, which is like, I think stand-up, you have the person that's like, I think I'm funny, I'm going to go tell jokes.
Right.
Where improv, a lot of the time, it's the trapdoor spider of a human, if you will, of like the introvert that then you get talking and now we can't ever shut him up again. And we love it. But, you know, a lot of people that I see and I work with outside of improv are very quiet people, very few words. And it's just because they get up there and it's a different expression for them as opposed to stand-up, where, you know, I think stand-up you need to learn how to wire jokes, and it's all about like how you do that. Where improv, there's so many theories, so many different takes.
Right.
It's schools of thought that it's much more like theater. There's always the nerd improv debate of how do you spell improviser with an ER or an OR.
Yeah.
And I'm an OR guy because I think we're an actor.
Right.
So it's the stand-up / improvisers, if you will, or the ER folks. But us theater, and I'm not even a theater one. I pretty much just done all improv, no like theater background or anything like that.
Right.
So, you know, that's kind of I forget why I was even saying that.
That's what happens a lot on this podcast.
Yeah. Oh, no, classes. But, you know, there's some other cool stuff, like we're revamping some of the curriculum in 201, and it's really cool, because, like, I even still study. I've been doing this 20 years, and there's still fucking rabbit holes that I love. And we've infused a lot of clowning and clown work and a lot of that stuff, which is, like, going back to the days of Chaplin and stuff, and like how did those guys learn from Jacques Lecoq and all those brains,
right?
And trying to bring that more relevant. There's a fun area. It's like the new thing that's kind of coming up. From what I understand in LA from my friends, is idiot work, which is like clowning but the mixture of improv, and it's something that's really fun. But you get a lot of these different theories that are, you know, kind of nod back to vaudeville that you wouldn't even necessarily think of, you know, that do apply to stand-up, but they're not as applicable because you're not working with the timing and the scenic development.
Right.
You know, it's like y'all tell jokes, we show them. You know, a guy walks into a bar and we're going to be a guy walking into the bar.
Yeah.
So our setup line takes a minute and a half and yours takes 5 seconds.
Right.
You know? So like we got to know who the fucking guy is walking into the bar because I don't know what drink he's about to, you know, all sorts of just weird stuff. You just have to navigate like world building and getting comfortable. So it's like, yeah, the classes are just a forever rabbit hole. And then when you think you know everything, hopefully someone goes out there and humbles you and show you that you'll never know nearly as much as a lot of people.
Right.
And it's just about keeping going.
Nice.
So that's kind of the nice part about it is I still go out and do intensives. I did one last year. I'll do another one this year. It's just about constantly learning. You don't know anything because you don't know it all. So it's nice.
Now, one of the things I hate that people don't know about stand-up, they kind of don't understand is they'll come up and they'll be like, "Oh man, make fun of me, talk trash about me."
Oh yeah.
You know, and all that.
Yeah. Roast me.
Yeah. Now with improvise, do y'all kind of get that when people come to you like, "Yeah, I thought this was gonna be like whose line is it anyway?"
Or we get that all the time. We also get, we thought it was gonna be stand up.
Yeah.
That one's a lot. Tell me a joke, and it's like, well, it's just not how it works, and I don't really want to play an improv game with you because I don't like whose line. And then you tell people, you try to explain it, and they get lost. Like it's the only untranslatable art form to try to describe to someone entertainingly. You know, and like it's just. So we get a lot of people want to come see our skits. You know, they make it sound like they're coming to support their 8-year-olds high school group, or not 8-year-olds high school, but you know, and you're like, well, no, I kind of like take it a little more seriously than a skit.
Yeah.
You know, but yeah, it's definitely that. Tell me a joke, do it right now, a good one. And I always tell them I've got it's a nice icebreaker one that's fairly offensive, but they don't get too out of me. Which is, what's the difference between a bag of cocaine and a baby?
Is that the Eric Clapton one? Yeah. Clapton joke.
Yeah. And that either turns them off enough that they don't want to hear a second one, or they're just satiated. They're like, that was okay. I don't want any more from you, but I'll take that.
So now you bring up a good question for me, because I've never really thought about it. Like with stand-up, you can have dirty or blue or whatever they want to call it stand-up. And then you have family-friendly and, you know, church clean, family clean. Is there like dirty improv? And I mean, I already know there's family-friendly improv.
Totally.
But is there such thing as dirty improv?
Well, yeah. I mean, gosh. It's like, God, I think of like this one show we were doing a writer's block, and Bobo ended up pulling a stick of butter, but it wasn't butter. It was actually cum out of the freezer, and for some reason our character was freezing. And it all makes sense in context. I promise, if you were in the room, it makes way better sense. That's the other horrible part about improv is we have to tell these stories. You're like, so there is like something about like improv, because like I said, we don't tell jokes, we show jokes.
Yeah. So
there's a very different level of trust when you're going to go after some content like that. And I think in that scene there was cum all over the walls because they were just fucking a bunch. It was really, it was a great scene paint, if you will. You know, so it's like we get, and there's fun in showing that depth. But there's definitely family friendly. You know, it's like just like stand up. It's like you've got your church gigs, which I don't. I'm not. You know, I haven't done a church gig in fucking years.
Yeah.
You know, I think last one I did was at 18. That's when I thought, you know, I just shouldn't be in front of. I just say fuck too much. I just do. So. Yeah, let's see. I forget where we're going. You know, I'm gonna talk for days. I love this shit.
Now let's go back to Whose Line.
Oh yeah. Wayne Brady and songs about spaghetti. Yeah.
No, why? Now I've heard this from a lot of improvisers. Honestly, don't like that show from what I've or either that it's put people in the wrong mindset for improv. Why is that?
Well, I think it's like I dislike it for different reasons, because I know that it's not as genuine to the art form, if you will. It's like I've had friends on there, or one on there, and because it's Hollywood, they want a day rate for their actors, so they farm a whole season's worth in a day.
Oh God!
And slap it together. So they just sit there and have them do short form games for 9-10 hours.
Jesus.
And change shirts every 2-3 hours. You're like, so that's why it's not as like, it's such farmed material. That's why I say Wayne Brady and songs about spaghetti, because he always does the piano thing. And that's like, short form is like, if you will, is great in its own, and I've seen it done really well by a lot of people. But you can fall into those traps of, you know, in stand-up you want to tell the same joke.
Right.
But, you know, there's like the, 99s. You know, it's like you get the same one, and you've got that guy that tells the same 99 every fucking show, and you're like, dude, you got anything else? And I think Short form to me, and why I find it more constrictive, is it's kind of a glass ceiling. It's more masturbatory.
Yeah.
But that's not for everyone. You know what I mean? There's plenty of people like short form. There's plenty of good short form. But it also, what I think is the hard part is we're closer to Christopher Guest than we are with the improv we do. We're closer to that than we are to Whose Line.
Okay.
So it's mainly just about it's harder to convey what we do. Because most of us just nod and we're like, yeah, you're not gonna show up any fucking way. You know what I mean? Like, yeah. It's Whose Lines? Come see my skits some Tuesday. You know, it's just like you're not gonna be there anyway. People that are involved, you know, they know more. You know, so it's kind of funny. It's almost like people want to feel better, like they're interested. I'm sure you get it with stand up too.
Oh,
you know, it's like, and then they tell you like, oh, I saw your post. That was super fun. You're like, yeah. Cool. You know, there's nothing wrong with it. It's like, you don't need to remind me about how you're like, I didn't feel guilty that you weren't here.
Right.
So thank you for letting me know that you feel guilty that you weren't there. The next time, like, oh, you shit. I don't know, man.
Now, for those that don't know, what's the difference between short form and long form?
So, yeah. Short form is going to be all game-based, you know, it's going to be like, here's a word, and we're going to give you a musical genre. And it's like, I can't, musical improv, my brain can't chew on. It's funny to watch me chew on it, and that's a different type of art.
Yeah.
But I don't chew on it well. You know, and so long form is where, you know, like my partner and I like to run mono-scene with a lot of my, the folks I work with, and I've got a show over at the theater, Franzen and someone I do once a month. And we'll take a word, sometimes we don't even get a suggestion, we'll just do a scene for an hour, or a whole one-act play. But then, so there's a lot more forms, but we think of it as more sets. You know, it's like you're probably going to see a 12-minute set with a different set of form wiring, whether it's Harold or Laurent, or a lot of times you'll see a montage, which is just a succession of scenes that you hope are funny.
Right.
You know, which I think is a little harder than most do, or we call it. Years ago, we coined it the Denver Herald, just so it sounded like we were trying to do something. It didn't sound as half-assed as it literally was. And there's fun montages, don't get me wrong. But yeah, so it's about chewing on the forms, and there's so many different, like, the Herald's going to be your most basic construct of, like, you'll see it a lot if you get into, like, sitcom writing. That's where, like, improv classes, the form-wise, it starts to translate into different writing styles. So you see a lot more improvisers in the writers' rooms. On a lot of TV shows, just because of that. Shit, my brain just went away again.
You're killing it at this improv today.
I know. The best part is I just own it on stage. Man. Like, forget where we're going. Someone tell me your name.
One of the things I've said on this on Talking Shop several times was that a lot of comics, a lot of stand-up comics want to do crowd work so bad, and they want to be able to deal with a heckler so bad, and they end up trying it at open mics and at showcases.
Those are the best sets too. When they like have it wired into their set, and nobody's done. Oh, that's great.
God, I can't stand it. But I always used to tell them, if you want to get good at crowd work, or you want to get good at dealing with a heckler, do improv. It'll get you already riffing. It'll work that muscle in your mind to riff and ad-lib. Do y'all actually deal with hecklers? Do y'all get hecklers?
Oh, fuck yeah. I mean,
really?
We get, and there's also good hecklers. So, you know, there's people that like are cheering your character on. Yeah. You know, there's also people that repeat your full line. Okay. They'll be like, at the laundry mat. You're like, what the fuck, dude? You know what I mean? And then it's really funny because there's some improvisers that try to deal with it in scene, and they're like, let me turn the radio down, or I'll shut this window.
Oh, okay.
And then, obviously, it's a really interesting thing. I think the best way I've seen it dealt with was a guy was working at a show in Chicago, and somebody kept talking, and he just stopped mid-scene. He was like, hey, buddy, I don't come into your door, kick the door in, and slap the dick out of your mouth.
Yeah.
And that was it. But I've seen it dealt with in scene. You know, I've brought people up on stage, you know, and it's like there's different ways to manage them. You kind of figure out if it's a good heckler or a bad heckler. Because the good ones you don't know how to not encourage them. But there's also something that's very genuine that like, and I think some people see when they come to improv, but like, it's not about that I can't deal with the heckler, but it fucks up my whole world. You know, like I'm building an hour scene over here, and you know, Jerry, whatever, you know, 40 minutes in wants to say balls real loud. Yeah. You know, and I'm like, that's great and all, dude, but I'm actually trying to do something not involving you. And you're the asshole that showed up to see me do this. Right. So like, help me have the tools to be successful. Shut the fuck up for a little bit. But I understand that like, people want that back and forth, especially when they come thinking it's going to be short form, and all of a sudden I maybe get a suggestion from them, you know. But it's the hope that the work we do is still entertaining. And I've never, you know, anybody that showed up for short form is always happy with long form, as long as it's done well. Right. You know, it's just harder to do. In improv, we don't deal with right and wrong. We deal with easy and hard. Right. And short form is a much easier choice. You've got all these mechanics. You know where the jokes are and stuff. You know, but then when you get into just a raw improv scene, all of a sudden I've got to be like, okay, well, where is the game of the scene is something you hear a lot. Right. You know, it's like, well, what is the mechanic? We don't know what the joke is, so we don't know how to chase it. But a lot of people don't know how to, after they've got a joke, you know, it's like watching a dog catch a car. It's like, I don't know, I got it. And I'm going to beat the hell out of it over and over and over again because I got this joke. So it's really kind of a catch and release art form that's also the weird part about it. Nice. But yeah, so that's also the thing with hecklers is you also are like, well, they'll go away. You try to get them out. I've done some where like I've just stopped and been like, y'all gotta go.
Everybody has a breaking point.
Yeah, I'm not a fan of hecklers when they like think that when they come with the intent to heckler, and you get this more with stand-up crowds, of like, this guy's like, I'm a great heckler. It's like, no, you're an asshole.
I'm helping the show.
You didn't help me. You know, you haven't helped anything. You didn't, you know what I mean? Like, your friend's embarrassed to be with you.
Oh, I'm getting married next week.
Oh, God,
yeah. Bachelorette parties are the worst. Bachelorette parties are the
especially in improv. No, actually, improv, the worst are corporate gigs.
Really?
When maybe they give you the same in stand-up, but they'll give you, and they're not the worst, but like the writer they give you in the sense of like what they want you to work into the show.
Oh, God, yeah.
You know what I mean? It was like, well, Jake, an accountant, got married last weekend. At the wedding, he did a little cameras disposable. Could you do a Fujifilm scene? Like, no. Yeah. No, like he asked me to come make shit up. Like if you want to write something, wire it up and save yourself $700, and you know I'll spare the drive.
I've actually had this happen at a corporate gig. The CEO came to me and he was like, I think her name was Diana, but he was like, yeah, Diana just got divorced, and what was it? I think she had just got divorced, and like, I can't remember if it was her aunt or her dog died. Somebody close to it. He was like, yeah, so if you can like, you know, point her, like basically focus on her and cheer her up. And I'm sitting here like, dude, you just gave me all the worst ammunition. I am not going to.
I hope she's dark.
Right, because I'm gonna. Bitch died. You know what I mean? Like, I don't know what to. Like, I don't know what am I supposed to say to you. Like your man just left you. What am I supposed to do? Are you happy?
Yeah.
What am I supposed to? I hate corporate gigs.
The others, do you also get folks that are like, I've got a really funny family member, and then they try to tell you their story about the funny family member as if I'm gonna fucking write it and throw it at Adult Swim one day? Like, you fucking serious? Like, God.
Oh God, I hate it so much.
It's hilarious. I just have
People
fun
are the
with
worst.
It. After 20 years, you just have fun with this. That's why I got that Eric Clapton joke. If it affects you, you fuck off. I don't know what to tell you. Or you enjoy it. Either way, I'm sorry.
Now one of the biggest differences that I know from doing both stand-up and improv, most of the time in stand-up we're by ourselves. You know, it's just us on stage. However, improv, I've seen from 2 to like 8 people or something. I can't remember how many. Is there a limit on how many people, or is it just y'all can be like Wu-Tang up there and not get down?
There's a show I know of some my friends do in Richmond that's a improv battle royale, and it's the what is it? It's Glow or it's or Flow Funny Ladies of Wrestling or something, and they get it's like Battle Royale W, so it's like, but it becomes a lumberjack match. That if you get pushed off the stage, you have to help people try to get off the stage, and they try to get upwards of 50 women on there.
Jesus Christ!
It's a shit show. It's all for it's much more about the entrances, and it's just a fun time. But most of the groups I worked in Chicago were about 10 to 14 deep. If you're going to do that's big group herald work, but out here it's a big community, but out there is it's like small high schools. My training center was 1,200 deep. So it's it's not a accredited college, but it's pretty much the same environment without the wobbly paper and the walk at the end. It normally ends because you get cut from your house team, and it's fucking shit. But it's part of the ropes. It's eating bullets. So yeah.
Now I ask this question, and I've always wondered this. We all know about the one man, one woman show or whatever like that. Which concentration in comedy do you think would be better at a one man show, stand-up comics or improvisers? I've always said improvisers, but I've only known stand-up comics that do them.
Well,
or boxers, Tyson.
I guess I don't know, because I consider John Leguizamo more of a stand-up, but his one-man shows are genius. But I look at Richard Pryor, and I hate to tell you, that's one-man show. That's it's what Nat and I were talking earlier, it's clowning at its best. It's just a very different view of it, and I don't even know if he viewed it as that construct. I don't know what theory he knew. But so it's just a matter of, I couldn't tell you. I think the fun part is I love doing a one person. I've got a form. It's not even a form. A form's a half-assed way of saying we have a bad idea sometimes. But my one person is me and Baguette, and I do a show as Baguette is my partner. And I've got a woman that I love to study with who does a one-woman improvised historical musical. And she can't sing to save her life. So it's that's the fun thing about improvisers is, when you start and that's another reason I love the clowning background, is, you start to learn to failing is a performance in and of itself.
Yeah.
And, I think that's where the improvisers maybe embrace the one-person show much more, because they're okay if it's not wired and it goes off the rails, right? Where I think stand-ups are much more meticulous with their process. That's why I think John Leguizamo is so polished. It's insane to watch him. Whereas one-person improv shows are much more as watching a river flow. Right. It's just seeing this person move one thing at a time and seeing how they connect dots. That's what's so different.
Matter of fact, the only improviser I can think of that I've seen do a one-man show was Will Ferrell doing W.
Yeah.
And that was hilarious to me, but I think it was hilarious because I couldn't believe he kept a straight face the whole time.
Yeah.
And is that a thing in improv, keeping a straight face, or do y'all not care if you break?
Well, I guess, that's kind of it depends on your school of thought, if you will.
Okay.
It's there's some people, I call it Fallon's. It's I say you got Fallon's disease.
Yeah.
I'm not a fan of breaking. If you're going to break me, you better earn it. But also, Ferrell comes from a school of thought like Groundlings, and it's you don't break character there.
Right.
Because they're all about absurd characters, and that's where you see Catan, Daryl Hammond, Kristen Wiig. You see all these huge character improvisers come out of Groundlings, and they don't break because they have to keep these absurd things going on with a room full of people losing their shit around them. They can't. So that's why, Jimmy Fallon, I believe, was more stand-up. I don't think he was too much.
I honestly don't. Only thing I remember about Jimmy Fallon, other than his talk show, is him laughing during SNL sketches.
That's what I mean. That's what we call
Fallon. Only thing I remember.
Yeah. It's just and I think there's some people that allow it, and there's some people that don't. To me, it breaks scene. But there's also when you get into more of the UCB premise-based game, they're much more about minding the funny and it being funny. So I think you tend to see that more because people think, not laughing at themselves, but they do surprise themselves. And I personally think it's better to keep my cards close. But if you're going to break me, you earn it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
There's something to that of I've seen enough. Like in my day, not that it's bad. It's just like it takes time.
I get that.
Yeah. It's like not everything's gonna break me. So there's something about it of like I think you get so focused, especially with an improv set, because your brain's too busy improvising for you to realize that there's a group of people there. If you're doing your job right, at least. You know, if you're too busy worried about the crowd, then you should probably worry about your improv set in the fucking middle of it. Help me out, I'm watching it. But I think it's super cool to see, you know, you talk about like combining the bridge, and I think that's what's so fun is to see like the different styles and how they're actually so similar. It's just, the end goal is the exact same. Everybody's end goal is sketch, right? But we all got stuck on open mics or in my case, classes and stuff.
Right.
And we all never get to the sketch goal because that's way too much fucking work.
Mm-hmm.
I can't go right in a coffee shop and go to, you know, Herb's at 5
Right.
and get up my jokes. You know, sketch is like, I gotta, and everyone feels daunting about it.
Look at that.
That's kind of like,
I know that feeling because when I did writer's block, I remember thinking like, yeah, I got this. Then we're halfway through the scene, and I'm looking at you three, and y'all just looking at me like, you're going somewhere with this, right?
Yeah.
And I'm sitting here trying to construct a joke in my head. And I don't know. And it made me realize real quick, like, oh, yeah, I haven't worked that muscle in a while. Like, it's way harder than I thought it was.
It's a different muscle, especially in writer's block. When you get like 2 minutes into a premise, you're like, oh, this ain't going well.
Yeah.
And like these people showed up to not see this go poorly. So let's work that funny bone that we supposedly have. And you know, we always pull something. That's why that show's so fun, is because we find something so stupid. You know, and I think that's one of the things that I think a lot of people lose in like stand-up and even in improv is like, you take the art form so seriously that you forget about like that stupid shit you used to watch, that Monty Python, that Carol Burnett, that shit that was just funny because
Yeah.
and we get so caught up in like trying to like have a statement with what we say, especially stand-up. You know what I mean? Is it's like it's a mic, not a soapbox.
Yeah.
And you know, I think Lenny Bruce was kind of a thing of like, he was great for what he did, but then once he got too soapboxy, you're like, I can't do you anymore, Lenny Bruce. You know. So it's nice in that show because you hit those funny moments where like, you're a walrus with thumbs. I don't know, like figure it out. And we just need to be silly and goofy. And you know, it's like that. As comedians, you know, I love your advice earlier. It's like we forget about that so much.
Yeah.
And even in improv, you know, you forget about like, oh right, let's just be silly and oh right.
It's supposed to be just dumb, right?
Yeah.
And I felt bad because when I did writer's block, there was one moment where I kind of just forgot I was supposed to be silly, and it was I was a Jedi in a laundromat.
Oh yeah.
And I was sitting there like, I'm a Jedi. All right, I'm gonna be a dick. I'm gonna be a Jedi, an asshole Jedi. And then I literally forgot what the fuck Jedis do, which hurt my nerd soul.
Yeah.
Because I was like, oh, we got it. Okay, all right.
And you Jedi mind tricked all of us. So we couldn't fucking help.
And I was just like, oh shit. Well, in the suit, you know, like I couldn't think of anything else. And then after that, it got stupid. Like every week, but yeah, that was fun, man. Now, another one of the main reasons why I got my main man Justin here is that he is one of the first people I've ever known to open up his own theater. He opened up right down the block from one of my favorite places. He's in the building right now. Matt Owen's in the building, right? He was right over by El Chorrito. It's on 21st and Lawrence.
Yeah, it's in between.
In between.
Depends on where you throw the rock.
But yeah, he opened up Grafenberg Theater, man. Congratulations on that, by the way, man. And how's that going, man?
It's going. You know? But the machine works in the sense as it's like, you know, it's been a company for about 7 years now.
Nice.
You know, and in this past year, we've gone literally from living room to brick and mortar. You know, it was like, I was spread out between my living room, deer pile, and room, where you were talking about. And for the majority of the life of the company was what I considered a roofless comedy club, which was a bitch to run because, you know, it was like, it was a pop-up everything except classes. In classes, you're showing up to my apartment building and I'm coming to let you through some security gate. You know what I mean? But I got people that graduated and took classes, and, you know, so you respected them. They enjoyed it and saw that it was actually not just some guy in a meetup. But it's kind of, when I went to Chicago the first time for Chicago Improv Festival, that's kind of where I was like, I didn't know what I wanted to do. I didn't know how to study this. Nobody had done it before, especially in the middle of the country. It was like you went there to study to get on SNL, and like I just didn't have those. I didn't have those bullets in me. I thought I did, but it became a different path once I got there, and I started to study more. I always had my eye on like the producers and the owners.
Right.
You know what I mean? And it's like, how do they run? How do they operate? I'd take producer workshops, and I'd be the one of 4 people in there, and it was me and all people in their 50s. And this 20-year-old dingus that's like, yeah, let's do this. Like, I'm ready to learn. And I always had that eye on the aspect because my thinking was this like, what I learned in Chicago, and you learned real quick, is like you don't get paid to perform.
Right.
You get paid to produce.
Right.
I think that's just the forever thing of comedy is. Now, granted, if you get good enough to get paid to perform, fucking hats off to you.
Hell yeah.
Welcome to that dozen. Even in Chicago, it's a handful. You look out here, and it's like but those people have earned those spots very respectfully so too. But they've eaten the same bullets. So, it was like watching that. It was kind of like I knew I wanted to do this for as long as I wanted. As long as I could.
Right.
And you went to LA to get famous, and you went to Chicago to train. So I went to Chicago.
Right.
And I did LA for a little bit. God, that place sucks. It does. It just sucked the art. It just sucked the art out of it. And coming from Chicago, I'm such a truist of like that's the only reason I do it.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? Like I don't give a shit who's in the room. I mean, you always do. Like we don't do it for no one, obviously.
Right.
But at the same time, it's like there is that self-fulfillment of like, God, I really have fun doing this. And in LA, it's just always about someone trying to get like, a woman had just gotten picked up from the club I was working at out there, who we now know as Flow for Progressive.
Yeah.
So everyone on the iOS stage was just hitting it like someone was going to catch their next caveman. You know what I mean? And you're just like, God, can we just do a set? So, it was kind of always wired up, and that's why the company like was able to survive with the training center is kind of always the backbone of any good house, or at least that's what Chicago taught me. So, is being able to keep that running and so forth. That's why, I had the weekly show at Deer Pile, then we had another one going at Room, but then sketch classes, so it was nice when, Matt offered the space in the building, because it was the first time we could ever throw it all together under one roof, which is still janky. But it's coming together, it's at the rate of growth that we've had to do in an unexpected fashion. I think it's like the world's a matter of luck, but you better be prepared when that luck comes in. Mm-hmm. I've seen plenty of people, especially in LA, like they remind me, it's like I'd rather be lucky than good.
Yeah.
But there's something about when you have the forever kind of like, this is what I want to do, you have to look into like, how do I get a club going? Like, what are the tools that take? What are the systems? What are that? There's no school to learn it from.
Right.
The only place to learn is I go to Chicago. I see how Mick, ran the Annoyance. I see, Charter and how she ran I.O. and just stuff like that. And still to this day, now it's a different level. I can actually talk to most of them.
Yeah.
There's a few people where I'm like, oh, I can message this guy and be like, why did you build this system? What struggles have you had and so forth? And that's one thing I really like about here is, this is none of my original ideas, if you will, but I definitely curated a lot from all the houses around. So it's just kind of, the company was always built there. So now we're in at brick and mortar with shows 5 nights a week, 4 nights a week most weeks. It's nice to see that, kind of had to Field of Dreams it.
Yeah.
We didn't have 5 nights of shows. We didn't have all that stuff.
Yeah.
So it was definitely a little nerve-wracking. So it's nice to see that it's going.
Nice.
Yeah.
Hell yeah. Now, in bigger cities, I know especially in stand-up, some clubs and theaters are territorial. It's not like that here because Comedy Works pretty much is like competing. They're competing with themselves. Basically, the Improv is a secondary thought. Is it territorial like that in Improv anywhere, or is it?
I think everybody kind of does, because it's like a lot of improv houses is like the story of every city is like one house was built and then someone disagreed with someone in that house and wanted to do it their way and they moved and started a different one. Like that's how every city is. New York, even Chicago, Second City, Del got pissed off at Second City. Del did heroin for a while, but then until Charter found him, and got I.O. open, you know, and it's like, and then Mick didn't like what was going on in Second City, so he, Mick Napier's the owner of Annoyance Theater. It's just another good name to know. It's kind of like, they're the Einsteins of science, I like to think, or of improv. You just inherently talk about them.
Nice.
Oh, bro, I forget what rabbit hole I was going down. Goddamn.
Territorial.
Oh, yeah. So in Chicago, I was taught is like, you know, because of that, work everywhere you can. You're an artist, and no house deserves to own you.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like, if anything, a house should be fostering as many opportunities for you as possible. Anything that they try to make proprietary of yours and your content's bullshit. But that being said, there's a lot of cities that like make performers sign non-compete clauses and stuff like that.
Wow.
You know, Denver used to be that way when we were a one-house town, and then, you know, we couldn't perform across town when the lights were up at the other theater and stuff like that. And, you know, so that was even something that's just recently changed, is because a lot of times with improv, the only thing proprietary is the human, which is completely wrong for any owner to think of, like, well, you can only do your art here. It's
right.
Like, but I'm not going to pay you shit for it. So just, you know, it was just like, it never made sense to me. So I see it a lot of places. Certain communities get better at it. I think eventually every community powers through it. Mm-hmm. Like LA's one that's used to be segregated in the sense of how the theaters worked, but one of the big theaters collapsed. So now it's this whole like big community, which is really cool to see. But Chicago was very segregated, but now it's so saturated that you can't. You know what I mean? And Denver, I think, is almost there, because we're a tier 2 city. Nice. There's Chicago, LA, New York, and then improv, it's Denver damn near. You know, maybe Austin above us, but we've got 3 brick and mortar training centers with 5 levels and stuff, and that's not a lot of cities have that. Like, a lot of cities, you get pissed off at your improv theater, like, find a new hobby.
So it's...
you know what I mean? Like, I don't know what to fucking tell you here.
So it's you guys, there's Voodoo, there's... What's the one on 15th Street?
Bovine. Yeah. And then you've got another guy doing short form, John, over at Cabaret. He's really great. He's, if you're ever into like short form, like he'll definitely help wire it out. There's a few smaller ones like Matt Need down with the Yes Lab, and DCPA's actually got, I say actually like it's surprising and it's not, because they're DCPA, but their improv program's really good with some of their teachers there. So it's, what's really cool about Denver is we've got a bunch of old, like Chicago-trained people. You know, I'm one of the handful that we came here to kind of pass on. Not like we want it to continue on. It's not about like our self-fulfillment. So there's a lot of like little ones where you can pop around and do workshops with a bunch of folks and stuff like that. Yeah. But that's why it's like the level of improv is also a little bit different in Denver and much higher, I think. Because of that level of people, I think, teaching.
Have y'all ever thought of combining forces and starting a festival, or is there already one going? Or?
Well, that's kind of what Denver Improv Festival is every year. Is, you know, we all work independently in the sense of like we all have to be a different house because there's enough teams and stuff for 3 houses to run.
Right.
And all those houses sell out.
Nice.
Yeah, so we've got 3. I think I'm the smaller house. Let's see, I sit out 6, but I think we flex to 69 as the full seated.
Hell yeah, you do.
Did that on purpose. But we're the smallest house. The rest of them are about 80 to 100. And yeah, it'll sell out, so it's a big festival. We're getting better at trying to work together in the sense of doing more crossover. I've spent time at all the houses, so you know I do my best at trying to play Switzerland. Nice. You know, in the sense is like, hey, come over here and do something. You know, as I had the owner of Bovine thrown over to do Franzen and someone last month, and this month, next week, March 20th, is Josh Nichols, the new owner of Voodoo. Nice. So, you know, I'm all about all the branches, and like I like working with people, and that's the one thing I learned in Chicago is it's like just because you do something at one place doesn't mean that you can't work with other people. So even though that might be perpetuated in other towns, I feel like I don't like it. Yeah, I don't even do that shit. Yeah.
Now in stand-up, there are a bunch of quote-unquote rules that everyone must follow that I still think most of them are stupid. You know, like some comics are all about, yeah, you have to clear the mic stand and or never turn your back to the audience, which I do. I do the opposite of all of that.
Yeah.
Now with improv, I've always heard yes and. That is the rule. Yes and.
Right.
Is that actually a rule that you must follow, or can you break that?
Well, I mean, I think all of us love to break it. So, you know, it's like that. That's why I say it's like there's no right and wrong. There's easy and hard. Because there's definitely ways that, like, I don't literally have to say yes and to what you say. I might have to yes the content.
Yeah.
You know, it's like I agree to talk about that, but my position doesn't need to be yes. You know, there's also ways to further a scene with me. I call it no butt play. You know what I mean? Because it's yes and play and no butt play, but it's like someone offers you something, you're like, no, but I'm going to extend you another offer. It's a variation. You know, and there's other ways to drive it like that, you know, but that's where you come from, and that's where we start getting to schools of thought is, you know, we come from that Viola Spolin background of like, don't ask questions, don't, you know, every scene is yes and so forth, and there's a very harsh construct of rules where, you know, you get introduced to more the annoyance theater McNapier school of thought, which is like, fuck the rules, we're going to break them, because it's funny sometimes when we do.
Right.
You know, like there is something funny about, you know, if the improvisers can do it well enough. And that's the thing that everybody forgets to say is like, yeah, you have to know the rules to break them.
Right.
So, you know, we think of them as much more guidelines of like, this is going to help your success rate. This is going to make your scene easier, you know, but I start plenty of shows with a question. You know, so as long as the only reason I say questions are bad is like who, what, where's. Is like, don't make me define your shit.
Right.
Yeah, it's like, don't be like, who are we? Like, I don't fucking, you could have used nouns in that sentence. You know what I mean? Like, you got to choose your words before you talked, and you said, who are we? Shit, fuck. No. But it's great. I have people that do that intentionally because they know how I feel about it, and I love working with them for it. You know, that's the thing is like, if someone knows it, like you've got a stick in the mud, about a construct of improv, they'll find it as your red button. And, you know, then they'll use it against you on stage and make you get out of it. So, you know, that's the fun part about that in a sense is you really get to kind of figure out how you view comedy and how, like, I think that's why it helps people with stand-up because it takes down their defense mechanisms.
Right.
So they're more confident in their replies to a heckler. As opposed to like, oh, I've got material prepped. They just know in their core what to say.
I get that.
Yeah.
Does anybody got a question for Justin? Because I just drew a blank. Anybody?
No.
Well, this is how it's gonna go. Because I can't think of any, I've covered everything that I had planned on asking. Yeah, go for it, brother.
So you said there's different level classes. What are the classes and what do they entail?
Oh, well, fair question.
I would have never thought of asking that question. Good job, buddy.
Pretty basic question. No, I love it. So, you know, I think of, you know, my programs, our program's different than other ones, but our 101 is much more of just a brass tacks. We're going to give you a simple overview of all the theory you'll see. And then level 2, we're going to start getting you into character development. And like, how can you be a character and walk around in someone's skin? We kind of break down clowning, like I said, is we're just infused in. But also we break down like Stanislavski and Meisner and all that other stuff to how it works to improv. And then level 301 is much more basic improv theory. So every school of house, if it's going to be Chicago style slow play, you know, we work heat and weight. Just kind of, those are terms you know if you're in it. Otherwise, I'm speaking Spanish to you. But you'll learn like every school of thought is UCB, which is that premise-based game we were kind of talking about. Mm-hmm. And then in 401, we hit you with forms. So we kind of start teaching you how to wire a show together, how to do all that stuff, what it means. Because there's a lot of times when you get together with a group, and if y'all have never met or played together, you could be like, hey, let's run this. And most of the time we all have the same language that'll help get us on the same page easier. And then 501 is... I teach how to do a show front to back. So production from how to find a space, how to get a space, how to do posters, what Canva is, all that kind of stuff. Well, I like to teach people to fish.
Yeah.
You know, is my whole thing is by the time you're done with the program, nobody will ever be able to take improv away from you. You can produce your own show. You can produce whatever the hell you want, wherever the hell you want. You know what fair agreements are. You know what it's like when you're getting screwed by a venue. You know what an expectation of a timeline looks like. but at the same time you also understand how to take an idea out of your head and foster it into something that comes on the stage with a group of people. So that's kind of how it goes. And then sketch is a little bit similar, just because sketch is a completely different beast. It's almost more about reps, and then getting into theory later. Yeah, that's kind of the brief overview of the classes. And those are also ever changing as I study. Just study all the time. So if there's something I find that I'm like, this really works and fits within our voice, you know, I always try to wire that in there. If somebody has an issue with a construct that's going on with the theory, you know, one of the ones I had to rewrite was an exercise that was Bill Cosby. You know, it was we had people that would come on and I'd have them improvise as if they were Bill Cosby improvising. And the reason we did that was because he has such a recreatable voice.
Yeah.
And so it was like, now I had to go back and rewire the exercise, which it sounds easier said than done, but like walking's not as like, the reason that Cosby was such a good voice, if you will, is because it was such a, everyone could try it. You know what I mean? It was that weird one. But then after all that happened, I was like, no, man, no.
It's kind of a bad idea, isn't it?
Yeah. You know, so that's why it's like, for obviously social reasons, the curriculum needs to change, like Cosby out of there. But it's also just, it's an ever-growing art form. So it's like, if our curriculum ever starts changing, you probably should go to another training center because they might be doing it better than us. And that's the hope, is that, you know, if I can keep changing and catch up with the art form, I'm only 33. So, you know, it's going to be a lot of years before I hang up the hat and say it's someone else's job. Yeah.
You can try Schwarzenegger. Everybody knows.
Yeah, that'd be
everybody can do a bad Schwarzenegger.
Well, I think, so what I've been doing is Fran Drescher.
Oh, God.
And Don Cheadle. And why I say Don Cheadle is everyone gives me a really weird voice, like, because the whole point of the exercise is that you'll never get it right.
Yeah.
So I like to throw that loophole in there. It's like, what do you think Don Cheadle sounds like? So it's like, now it's an impossible task that you can only accomplish by trying.
Yeah.
And literally, that's all you need is to try. So that's kind of a fun one. But Fran Drescher's very nice. Yeah, those classes can be long. No, it's great.
Okay.
It's great. It's hilarious. But it's a voice that everybody knows.
Right.
You know, because the big thing about us is it's like we say that like we really try to help the artists like express themselves. Is like we want them to express themselves. You know, it's fly your flag as high and as proud as you can. And a lot of people don't know how to do that, and that's when we kind of say that the annoyance school of thought, you know, that's very much no rules, no guidelines, but you view the world through your lens that got you this far. You're the only person that's going to think of the whatever comes out of your mouth. I can't think of it. Nobody else can think of it. So it's a lot of like helping people really get used to like, oh, this is my comedy voice. That's why I like to go over all the different ones in the program, because you're not going to tell jokes like I do.
Right.
And I'm not going to sit here and teach you like you need to. It's not the only viable way. If you agree with Chicago style slow play, then I'm your dude man. You know, but if you like UCB, Max Schwartz knows that shit inside and out.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I think one of the, oh gosh, who was it? The guy on Veep, he saw in a bathroom at one of the festivals. I don't know if I'll tell this podcast. It's a hilarious fucking story, though. Those guys fucking get down. It's great. But yeah, and I think that's the most fun about the training center is I'm stupid lucky to get to see all these folks in the hopper find their comedic voices that I get to see for 8-10 months before they come out swinging with shows. Some people do independent stuff, but you know, that's where the classes come in so much, is when someone can find their comedic view and start to use it. You know what I mean? Like there's other people that you know, they've got it for different reasons, but once everybody finds their voice, you're like, okay, cool. I keep doing this one. Yeah. No, I'm not in a bad spot. I don't need to go back to auto finance yet. You know?
Anybody else got a question? Anybody? Go for it. Mike's right there. Yeah.
So formal.
Love it.
I just want to know the punchline to the baby cocaine joke.
Go for it,
What's the punchline?
Okay, yeah. So the full joke is, what's the difference between a bag of cocaine and a baby? And the punchline is Eric Clapton wouldn't let a bag of cocaine fall out a window.
Oh.
Yeah.
So I tell you, it's an offensive joke.
Yeah.
I warn you, like, it's definitely to deter people from asking for a second one. But the people that appreciate it are like, I'm good. I'll come check out a show. I get your voice.
Any other questions? Go for it.
So this might be a little heavy, but you guys were talking about Bill Cosby and just kind of how things change in society. I'm just saying there's a big debate nowadays within the comedy world like around things like political correctness and how comedians should use their voice as an audience. And the two extreme sides of the coin seem to be kind of the nihilistic approach of just making people laugh by any means necessary, saying the most like offensive, even if it's not a well-constructed joke, kind of things just to get any sort of reaction. And then on the other side, people thinking that because you have an audience that you should be working to empower people politically, socially, and like, well, I kind of fall somewhere in the middle. I'm just curious what you guys think. Like, what is your, like, how much does responsibility from a social and political aspect like factor into comedy? When do you have to let that go, and when should you use your voice like towards something you're passionate about? Just curious.
Well, on the stand-up side of the house, good question. Stand-up side of the house, I tell a lot of taboo jokes, I honestly do, but I try to get it to the point where the crowd, by the time I'm telling a taboo joke, the crowd likes me so much that I can almost get away with anything. You know what I mean? Like, what was it, 3 weeks ago I had a show that was 80% women in the crowd, and I had a 45-minute set, you know, and by the time I got to like minute 25, I knew I had them girls. I was about to say I had them bitches. I was about to say that, but I know I had them. I had them in the palm of my hand. And once I knew I had them, I started going taboo. You know what I mean? Because the way I always look at it is if you immediately stop listening to my joke after the second sentence, it's gonna sound terrible. It's gonna be a fucked up joke. But if you ride with me through the whole joke, you'll see this is one of the most innocent rape jokes you've ever heard in your life. You know what I mean? Like, this is the most non-offensive abortion joke you could possibly hear. You know what I mean? It's like that. And I'm not gonna lie, for me it just comes from time. You know, like I said, like I've been doing 20 years now, so I kind of know when, like, ooh, they're not gonna like that. So I'm just not gonna do that until you really like me. And then by the time you really like me, it's just more of a, I want to make them tense for a second. You know what I mean? To that point to where they almost fart. I want it that tense. And then by the time I hit that punchline, it's like that pressure valve releases, and I get a huge laugh off of that. But that's just how I do things. But I wait until they really like me. I'm a very lovable guy on stage. I'm pretty cool. I'm pretty cool.
I think, you know, and obviously it's different from where we're at, you know, it's hard because, so we're an uncensored house in a sense, and not in a sense, just fucking literally are. And that's always kind of the great debate is like, where's that line drawn? You know, I think there's something about like, yeah, you have a platform, but also comedy's about checking your platform at the door. You know, there's also something real about that. So I think there's a time and a place, and if you protect your show that way, I love it. And I think improv, it's inherently going to come out in your voice with, you know, the situations your characters put in. So there's something about, you know, with the Gusto Bowallen Theater of the Oppressed, you know, that's a little more deep work. We have to assume good intent with the performers on stage. And I think that's something that's been lost, is we assume malicious intent when it's, you know, we've seen all these people before us try these things. As far as like, I don't know, I fucking like my voice, you know what I mean? And like, I'm not going to do what I think is politically correct. I'll do what I think is morally correct to my core and my convictions. But at the same time, I think that a topic that may be taboo for others, you know, is I think you'll make the right side of the aisle just as uncomfortable as the left. And one of the things I think of is the short story of Harrison Bergeron. If you've ever heard of that, it's Kurt Vonnegut. And it's just kind of the overarching, no one will fucking read it. It's great. It's a 20-minute read, do it. But it's it's kind of my view of like what happens if the left were to come in and like the smart people have noises that go off in their ears so they can't think faster than other people, and the beautiful people have to wear masks, and the strong people have to wear weights. And there's something about like, if we lose the independence of our voice, and if we lose the ability to disagree, then we can never find the ability to agree, and we get more keyboard champions than we fucking need in this goddamn world. And a few people that are trying to avoid a few harsh discussions, and I think it's hard because like, yeah, if you show up and I'm running, you know, a typical show, you probably won't see any questionable content, but if you see me running like a deconstruction, which is a form that is, I want to affect you as an artist. You know, it's like the very first scene in the form is, I'll try to give you a brief rundown of it, is like the first scene is like a very serious moment where it's like a dad yelling at his son. And it's like not a good yell. Like, we're not trying to be funny, it's very dramatic. And then those people are locked into that scene. They, two people come out to do the following scenes, is what we call directorial scenes, where they're like, one's a drill sergeant yelling at his kid, and that's telling the dad that he wants him to be more of a drill sergeant to the son, and the other is a David versus Goliath, which is telling the son character we want him to beat his dad. We go back to the root scene, times are even worse, and like this dad's damn near abusive. And we know that that's like, as the actors, we know that that's our intent. And then we do 5 scenes, 5 one-minute scenes of where this behavior is not okay. And then we come back to that root scene and it's the worst it's absolutely going to get. And then we do a 5-minute run of no scene longer than 30 seconds. And then we come back to when times were good. So it's like, we want to take you, so you know, that last scene is like yelling, you know, fun stuff, yelling, fun stuff, yelling, oh God, we're really trying to loosen you up here. And then you come back to the scene where it's like the dad and the son are fishing on a boat. And the dad's like, hey son, hand me that beer. And you were like, no, because we found out the dad's an alcoholic that beats his son. But like, that's what you get when you sign up for a decon. So, you know, there's also something about, you know, people want me to protect my content for them, and I'm not going to bubble wrap this world. I'm very, you know, there's a lot of shit that happens, and if you don't like to talk about it, go back to your house and shut the door. Don't talk to me. I think, so it's hard in the comedy world to make both sides happy, because the right wants you to just go for the jugular and be as blue as possible, and the left wants you to bubble wrap everything like Sinbad meets Carrot Top, and I ain't down for either of that shit. But I'm always open for discussions on why my content may have bothered you, and I'm always open to learn and see, maybe I won't address that content again in the future. You know, we talk about protecting content really well of, you know, if we're going to play a chauvinistic, misogynistic asshole, we want to play him as a paper tiger that we can easily defeat, and the end of the scene is going to be where the woman gets the power. You know what I mean? Because there is something about, there's improvisers that are like, well, it exists, and I think that's valid, but I think those people have enough power and stage time in this world that they don't need fucking mine. But at the same time, if I'm playing a character or playing one with those, I get to choose the narrative of the story. And I get to choose, well, granted I'm the actor that has to play this asshole, I can also set it up so my partners know to, you know, defeat me so that they get the power. You know, it's kind of, the construct I give people in classes is Biff and Back to the Future. Like, we don't have Marty McFly doing anything without being called a chicken his whole life. So if my character's being an aggressive male, you know what I mean? Like, I'm calling you chicken. And we teach that language so people, you know, when we work together, they understand that construct a lot more. So it's a little bit easier to protect content and be able to go after political stuff. But as far as like that being the only use of my platform, I think is ignorance is into why the fuck I got into this platform too. You know, it's just like, well, if I wanted to be into politics, guess what? I'd have gotten into politics. Unfortunately, I drew dicks on the desk and don't like education, so here I am trying to make comedy a living. You know what I mean? Like, yeah, you're asking me to make swords and I'm not a blacksmith. So I'm just trying to be an artist out here, and I think that's the hardest part.
Another thing I add to it, especially with comics, stand-up comics, there's a drastic difference between being confident and cocky.
Oh yeah.
There's a drastic difference. I'm confident, not cocky. You know, I'm not cocky. like when I do stand up, after a while, like when I say, if I'm doing a 45-minute set, once I hit minute 20, 25, if y'all don't understand everything I say is stupid and silly, I have messed up.
Yeah.
So that should let you know that I am not gonna change. I'm gonna keep being silly and stupid. So, but if I decided to tell a serious and horribly taboo joke, then that's cocky. I'm not, you know what I mean? That's me being like, I'm way better than I think I am. I got this. You know what I mean? That's dumb. And one way I challenge people, if they want to tell a taboo joke, I'll tell them. What's your joke? Oh, it's a black joke? Tell it to a bunch of black people. Did they beat you up? Did they laugh? Because that's the whole point.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Cocky and bravery, they're right there together. And most brave people die. You know what I mean? You know, so if, like I was saying 3 weeks ago, I did 80% women. Yeah, I told rape and abortion jokes. But by the time I got there, everybody knew I was silly. You know, everybody knew I was saying stupid shit.
Well, they knew you probably weren't punching down.
Yeah,
you know
I'm never gonna go too far.
Deal.
I'm never gonna go too far, and it's gonna turn around. You know what I mean? And I got everybody to know that. So by the time I started hitting those touchy subjects, they were, instead of being like, ooh, like this is like they're watching Get Out or Us. You know what I mean? Now they're more like, oh, okay. But you know what I mean? It's like now they're looking at, you know, the end of a Marvel movie. Like, okay, what's gonna happen now? You know what I mean? And that's where I look at being the difference between cocky and confidence.
Well, there's people that want the taboo subjects. You know what I mean?
Which is Andrew Dice Clay fans.
Right. So I think there's a matter of understanding how to treat that. That you know, it's like you were saying, it's like you're telling rape and abortion jokes. You know what I mean? Like, we've all got them. Not in a good way. But it's also something
that's terrible.
Well, it's a comic thing. I don't mean that. Like joke. Oh God, Jesus! I'm gonna hear this in court in fucking 5 years for some fuck reason. I even forgot where I was going. Derailed my damn self. No.
Yeah.
Taboo. I don't know.
I don't know where you're going with that.
Yeah,
You made me regret. I said everything for a second.
Oh, no. Because you have to build that trust with them, and you know that when you can and can't go there. You know, because there is something about respecting the adults in the room that are like, oh, yeah, I get it. You know, and it's like, as long as we're not causing, I think people trust us to take care of their emotions.
Right.
They trust us to hear something that might be risky, and that trust is on the tail end, we have to make it not risky.
Right.
You know what I mean? We have to make it not hit home unless you're in the South, and then they want you to hit the neck of the home, and you're like, Jesus Christ, fucking South. God. You know, and I think that's the trust that we have, is that, you know, you laugh when to show somebody you're not hurt, and that's with words, and, you know, that's physical and mentally. So I think that's the biggest thing, is if you can get a laugh out of an audience with a taboo subject, it shows that they trust you, in a way that they know that you won't ever hurt them. And as long as they believe you're genuine with that, with this art form, you'll never have to worry about that. But I get tons of comics or improvisers that come up and ask, like, how do you manufacture that? I'm like, I don't know, don't be an asshole. Like, how do you manufacture being nice? I don't know. Change your core. Go for a walk. I don't know, man.
Fart?
Yeah. Get some crystals. That's what I did.
Do some peyote.
Yeah. Microdose. I love it.
Anyway, those good questions. All right, gonna wrap this up. The way now, for those that have listened to this podcast before or came to watch one, you know, I always end every episode with the same 2 questions, and I'm gonna do that again because that's what I do. So first question, Justin, what is your biggest pet peeve that you see improvisers doing?
Yeah.
That's
Cause this is hard, because one of my core things is always give a note when I know it'll be heard. I think what I see, and maybe that's actually kind of it, is like I see a lot of people that want to know a lot. And I see, and they do know a lot. Not to discredit them, but what I see is it becomes that difference between ego and confidence that you're talking about. And it's that I know a lot that needs validation, and I see a lot of like people wanting to be heard with their ideas and so forth, or like pushback, you know, especially in notes. Like I'm on a board on Facebook with theater and festival management people, and they're always talking about why people can't take notes and why they need to be right or wrong in some contract.
For a minute, I thought you said white people can't take notes.
Well, we all hear, you're not wrong. No. There's something about, I think, and it took me, 15 years. It hit me probably like a month and a half ago. And I realized that like, I used to fight so hard to get the notes. And I didn't realize that they weren't giving me a note because they wanted me to do it right or wrong. It was actually really beautiful is they were giving me a note because they really liked me and wanted me to be better. You know what I mean? Is it was not some like, oh, they needed to knock me down. It's not some Machiavellian, you know, bullshit construct of power, which does exist a lot in that world, unfortunately. But it was like I never actually heard that they were just trying to help me be more of me. And that's all that anything, you know, it's not a judgment, it's a notice. The judgment's everything you put on it. And I had this conversation a lot in classes is, you know, if we can talk about each other like humans with difficulties as opposed to humans with closets that never get opened, all of a sudden it becomes a lot easier to work and it becomes a lot easier to grow because your validation isn't wrapped up in your improv set. You know, it's like I know people that's fucking weeks are ruined because they had a bad 20-minute set because they feel like they did it wrong. And you know, I see this, people get the joy sucked out of them because then all of a sudden they get a bad note or they get cut from a team, and it's just like, you're not an improviser until you've gotten cut from your first team, and if you can't take notes, then get out of it. You know, it's just like, but you have to, when we say take the note, there's something about like, I got 20 years of experience, and you think I didn't say that? You think I said that just hearing my own fucking voice?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And there's just something to that I think that it's not, so I guess that's the like pet peeve is I see a lot of pushback and it's just from people wanting to help.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's not a judgment ever. It's like you literally paid me to be in this room and say this shit. You know what I mean? It's like, sorry if I'm hard on you, like, and I always try to make it as soft as possible, you know, because I came from like the Chicago style teachers are like, they don't give a fuck about what you think, how you fucking feel about the information. You know what I mean? Like, and that was valid to their point. I learned quite a bit from it, but you know, I think that time has changed, and while that teaching style was great then, I think I have a very different approach, and that's why I learned, is so I can do it differently, not emulate.
Right.
But it's about like, boy, when you actually stop and listen to what the people are trying to tell you, anyone, you'd be surprised how much more you're willing to grow. And the other pet peeve I have, I just thought of, is like people turning down compliments for their shows. Straight up, like, oh, you had a really good set. Well, I don't know. This it's like, dude, that person just thought your set was good. Like, shut up and don't talk them out of the compliment. Heaven forbid you take it as a compliment and feel good about yourself, but there's such a self-deprecating, you know, ownership is hard positively and negatively. You know, it's, you know, we don't want to own something that we've done negatively, and we see that construct a lot. But then you forget about, like, how fucking hard it is to let someone be nice to you. You know, it's like, and then we want to disrespect their opinion of my art form by being like, well, you don't know what you're talking about. I asked too many questions. My character was and they don't give a shit. They came to see art, and you gave them art.
Yeah.
You know, so love yourself, man. You do good work, and if you don't love it, no one else will.
Hell yeah. Now, last question I ask you, brother. What is the one thing that you wish new improvisers would do more often?
Oh,
yeah. I like that.
I think genuinely it's go to shows. I don't see a lot of new improvisers out at shows, and it's hard to teach them because I'm teaching them how to play basketball, but they've never seen a game.
Ooh, good enough.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And that's how, like, in classes I had to wire in editing to the curriculum. And you in Chicago, you don't learn it. I'm sure they teach it now just from people bitching, but, like, you learn because you go to shows. You know, that's where you just learn the art form. You learn the voices. You miss out on so much. And I understand you've got a class this week and da-da-da, da-da-da. It's like, yeah, but you also signed up for this. Get the best experience and, you know, see what it's about. Go out there. Go see every house you possibly can. Go to Bovine. Go to Voodoo. Come to us at Grafenberg. Go see that pop-up show somewhere else. Go see what art jives with you in the sense of improv, because you're the most malleable then. And if you come out of one space, you know, I've done 4 or 5 training centers, so it's not about being one and done. It's, you know, about constantly growing. Get done with one, go start the next one. But while at the same time you're learning, go out and see shows, do jams. We didn't have, you know, jams kind of the open mic function of improv. Right. And now it's like, we're a jam-based house. There's a lot of jams. Yeah. You know, it's like, and most of the time, shit, if there's people in there after 9 o'clock that didn't play and want to, I'll probably put lights up and let them jam. You know, it's like, I want people to get reps. So it's about getting out there, getting reps, but also, like, go soak up so much of this art. You know, it's like, I was thinking in the car the other day, it's like, I've watched way more than 1,000 shows. It's ungodly the amount of shows I've plowed through. You know, it's something that's so important, because now I can decipher on what moves to make, what ones not to make. We're all going to have that scene where we're roommates and draw the line down the middle. You might not have it if you see how poorly it goes for someone else. But that's the thing. Get out there. Get to be a part of your community. You know, I'm kind of a... well, not kind of, I'm definitely a drunk. You know, and it's like we say in AA is like, just get in the rooms and go be a part of the community, and improv's not very different in the sense that, you know, fucking be a part of the community. If you want to improvise, like, go see shows, go learn how people work the way they work. It's not something that's just as easy as turning on a light switch, and I think a lot of people feel that it's that easy. And yeah, it's just like painting in the sense as anyone can fucking paint. You know what I mean? But it's no paint and sip. You know, it's a very different level of these, you know, it's like saying that, and I'm not saying I'm a Van Gogh by any means, but just for lack of a better example, you know, saying that, like, oh, I can pick up a brush and do Scream the next day, you know, and it's like, no, fuck you, just fuck you. It's so insulting to 20 years of dumb shit. You know, but that's the thing, is just go out there, soak it up, do as much of it as you can, but when you get burnout, you know, pull back, like, don't do 5 groups when you start getting offered. You know, pick that one that you like. Stick to your art. Do the shows you like. It's not about doing any show. It's about do the right show, not the right now show.
Nice.
Yeah, improv's, and if you need a break, improv's always there. Nice. You know, take some fucking time for yourself. It happens.
Now, how can they find you on social media, man? You and Grafenberg.
Let's see, grafenbergproductions.com.
Spell it.
Oh, right. Grafenberg Productions, just like it sounds. And then on, let's see, we're Grafenberg Comedy on Twitter, Grafenberg Productions on Instagram, and I think that's social media, and then Grafenberg Productions on Facebook. And all that simple stuff. We got shows coming, you know, it's like I said, we run 4 nights a week, so classes, so we're lights up 7 days a week. But you can come through on any, you know, our Wednesday, Thursday night shows are all pay what you may, so you can literally just come in, sit on down. If you like what we do, give us some money. If you don't, sorry, we'll do better. You know what I mean? And then weekends are $10, gets you in all night. We've got writer's block on Fridays with a genre group that I direct. And each quarter we chew on a different genre. We're just polishing up rom-com and going into, but it's been so fun. They shit on it so well. And now we're going into heist movie, which is pretty fun. Yeah, awesome. Heist has been real fun to dance with. I gotta get some new lights in there and stuff. Yeah, so that's Friday nights. And then Saturdays, you can catch, that's more of our sketch comedy night, because we're leaning in more to a sketch. You know, it's like, yeah, we gotta open the doors with improv, but now we're starting to chase that right in dog. So that's where you can see we've got one sketch show, sketch release that's going to start up, and then my partner Max and I have a sketch show, Just Friends. And then, let's see, at 9 o'clock we have the show Relationship, which is somebody gets up and tells a story about a bad date, and we do scenes based off of it.
And we had a lady who her heart stopped during sex one time. Oh, it was great. It was great.
Hell yeah,
I'll try to recap it.
Hell yeah, brother.
She had just gotten recently divorced from her husband, who was a professor, who his intern showed up to walk their dog that day. And she was in a V-neck tank top, and, was feeling a little Beverly Hills Bordello, if you know what I mean, a little late-night showtime. And had a moment with this, 23-year-old guy, and, she was in her mid-40s, and I guess her heart stopped, and she made him come to the hospital with her.
Jesus
yeah, great. It was great. Yeah, some of these bad dates are awful. I love it. So that's on weekends. So Grafenberg Productions, we've got Rachel Mason and Susan Messing coming out end of April, and they're kind of two of the pillars of Chicago. Like, Rachel Mason she runs Second City now, if you know anything about Improv, and I mean, she runs the training center of it, but that's kind of like, whoever does that is the Supreme Court of Improv curriculum, if you will. So her and Susan Messing, one of the founders of Annoyance Theater out in Chicago, are coming out to work with us.
Nice.
And that will be really awesome. So that's end of April 27th. But other than that, we're there getting weird all the fucking time.
Hell yeah.
Yeah.
Hell yeah. Thank you so much for coming here, man.
Whack myself with the mic.
Give it up for Just Franzen one more time, guys. Thank y'all so much for coming, man. Again, my name is Anthony Crawford. You can, I'm at Crawford Comedy on everything but Facebook, and it's just Anthony Crawford on Facebook. And yeah, I got a bunch of shows coming up. Please look me up. Talkin Shop. We do this every third Thursday, man, here at Mutiny Info Cafe. So if you enjoyed it, please come back. If you want to hear some of the old episodes, look us up on iTunes, Stitcher, Podbean. I'm trying to be somebody. So yeah, man, thank y'all so much for coming. We'll talk shop again next month. All right, thank you.